What's up, War Report family? It is your boy C-Dub. A-Day has come and gone, and everyone is here to give their final thoughts on this spring practice, as well as A-Day. Also, we discussed Denver Jones committing to Auburn, all that and more in the latest edition of our weekend tailgate.
You are now listening to the War Report Weekend Tailgate, brought to you by
Athletic Architect.
It's your boy, I Jones. Be Will, C-Dog, Mike G. Get ready, sit on back as we bring you the War Report Weekend Tailgate.
Resurrection Sunday to all who celebrate. He has indeed risen, and we want to thank you guys for taking time out of your holiday to check out the latest and greatest weekend tailgate, courtesy of Athletic Architects. Guys, one of the best ways that you can support the War Report is to support our sponsors. So please be sure to visit buildthehouse.com, especially if you got a cool LLC idea or know someone or related to someone who's a student athlete. Help them or help yourself begin planning your financial future today. Also, guys, one of the ways you can also help us is that you can share this content on social media, that is Facebook and Twitter. Use the hashtag and tag us. That will definitely help people to find our content who, believe it or not, don't even know we out here. So do your part and help us out. Smash the like button, help us in the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe to our channel. A-Day is come and gone. We got some video and film to chop up and talk about. Mike G can tell you how you can access that.
Hey, listen, guys, we were out here in the cold, and one of the reasons we're out here in the cold is because of our patrons. You guys allow us to be able to cover things live. It was indeed cold and windy yesterday at A-Day, but we braved it with you guys to bring you as much coverage as possible. Become a patron member, help support the work that we're doing here at the War Report. We're going to be at every live event we can possibly be at, giving you guys coverage. You can give the gift of the War Report by gifting a membership to somebody who has not made a decision to join our community yet. Look for that gifted membership button. Hit that. YouTube chooses these at random to people who interact at a high level but haven't made the decision to come all the way over. This has been going great. You guys have been doing an amazing job gifting memberships. So continue to do that. You don't want to miss this 8A breakdown that Ike is going to do. And I don't want everybody on Twitter complaining about how they put everything behind the paywall. Well, some things are for the paywall, and these film breakdowns or one of those things. So gift a membership, help somebody else get access to that. Check us out on podcasts. Brian is working hard to get podcasts out to you guys, all our content on podcasts, and then some. We got podcast exclusive content, especially the Amen Corner, Mike Mack and Memes. We've got some things going on over there that you definitely do not want to miss. We're going to be breaking down a lot. Listen, basketball is year-round now at Auburn, and we're talking basketball on the pod. You don't want to miss that. We're talk a little basketball today, but a lot of good pod talk happening there that you guys definitely do not want to miss. In honor of the commitment, we're giving away an AU t-shirt today. Hashtag get your weight up in the comments. Brought to you by GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. So, AU, we're giving this away. You got to be here around the 1 hour mark to win. So don't leave if you put hashtag get your weight up in the comments, because we will redraw and Ike will not wait on y'all. He ain't waiting on y'all. So, those are the rules.
Also, before we get going, is there a birthday?
Oh,
Susan Scales.
All
Happy
right.
birthday to you.
Happy
on
birthday,
this
Susan.
holiday.
Birthday.
Yeah, so enjoy yourself. Just enjoy yourself. Thanks for hanging out with us, by the way.
Yeah, Easter birthday.
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you, James, for shouting her out as well. So let's go ahead and get into it, guys. We have a lot to cover, a lot to discuss. Ike Jones, B. Will joined eventually on the post game, and we kind of got out our initial thoughts. Mike G, you were not able to join, but one of the things I wanted to talk about, winners from A-Day. And unfortunately, there are some, I hate to put it this way, but there were some losers from A-Day. Some things that didn't go quite as well for
Yeah.
certain groups or certain players. We'll talk about that, but let's start with the winners, of course. Obviously, we talked about it yesterday. We'll reiterate it today. A big winner from A-Day was Robbie Ashford. Coach actually talked about him in the presser and had some pretty positive things to say 15 practices later from the start of spring practice. Let's kind of look to see what Coach Freeze had to say about Robbie Ashford.
Coach, the quarterback position, Robbie looked like this was the atmosphere that he could really capitalize in. You talk about competing in this league. Do you feel good at that quarterback spot with what you have on the field?
I feel better than I did 15 practices ago. I still think I really think from this point now until the end of fall camp, there's so much that needs to happen for somebody to solidify being the guy. And I think all have improved. I think all are still inconsistent with some things. We really had every man, we were really wanting to throw that ball around today. And it just, it would have been really ugly and probably a lot of 3 and outs had we tried to do that. And I think Robbie got better, and he's really been fun to coach. And I think he's trying to change some of the things that may have caused at least me concern about him being the quarterback leader, whether it be body language or ball security or your demeanor in general, the way you talk to your teammates. And I don't know that anybody's ever really challenged him like I did this spring with that. And I thought all 3 of them responded to our challenges and just were like, Coach, just please coach me.
Very different tone coming from Hugh Freeze regarding the quarterbacks, specifically Robbie Ashford, compared to how he talked about his quarterbacks at the beginning of spring practice. Mike G, you were there covering, you saw it in person. You were there interviewing Hugh Freeze. What do you make of that as well as Robbie's performance from yesterday?
Okay, so I got a little different. He didn't say this, but I have a little of a bit of a different spin on his changing or evolving attitude on Robbie Ashford. When you come in, you don't know him. And I think that some of this was Robbie making an effort to take a look at some of the things that he wanted him to take a look at. But I think a percentage of this was him just getting to know who he is as a person, right? And your perception can change drastically based on, you knowing somebody. And he said it. He said he's been, listen to what he said. He said, I think he's got better and he's been fun to coach. Now, you could take that a lot of different ways. You could take the fun to coach comment a lot of different ways, but I don't think that didn't sound much like coach speak. I think he got an athlete who can do some things that he's not had in quarterbacks before, and that's got to be fun to coach. Now, what I saw on A-Day and why I think Robbie Ashford was a big winner, they didn't throw the ball a lot because of the conditions. They changed kind of the script of A-Day, and I don't think that Hugh Freeze had any interest in putting on a sloppy exhibition, which is what it may have looked like had they passed the way they had originally intended going into this game. But because of that, we got to see Robbie Ashford run the ball. And I know you can't hit the quarterbacks, but man, let me tell you something. On a lot of those runs to the outside, they weren't close to him. These aren't plays that would have been blown dead. It looked effortless. He looked effortless running the ball and bouncing to the outside and getting around the edge. So I think Robbie Ashford was clearly the biggest winner from A-Day. If we have to pick one, if we're saying, hey, if there's a winner, I don't see, man, in that format with how they had to play, he was definitely a winner because he got to show off how athletic he is. Again, like if you had forgotten how athletic Robbie Ashford is, you were reminded. And, Hugh Freeze also during this pressure made a point of saying, we may have to play a game like this in the fall. So this could be an experience that they draw on and saying, hey, in sloppy, we can't throw the ball a lot, and we've got to run, and our O-line is going to have to block, and our quarterback is going to have to make plays with his legs. And I think that he got a chance to show that off because he was asked about how you evaluate that part of his game, and he said, I don't know. It is hard. It is difficult. But I think they got a chance to do that on Saturday, at least a little, So Robbie Ashford, to me, biggest winner from Saturday. Biggest winner.
Ike or B, you can chime in. We talked about his performance yesterday, but what do you make of Hugh Freeze's comments about Robbie Ashford?
Yeah, I mean, I think his evolving attitude about whether or not Robbie Ashford can be the kind of leader, which is what he talked about specifically, the kind of leader from the quarterback position that could be in there is something that's important to note because I think that was the big thing that he was looking for, like who has the maturity to be a leader in the locker room from that position. He wasn't sure that existed. He had those exact comments when asked about his evaluation of the quarterback position. He's like, I'm looking for these type of guys to do these things. I think Robbie's come a long way, in Coach Hugh Freeze's mind in terms of that specifically. So definitely looking forward to seeing how he continues to evolve in that. And hopefully he's gained some additional confidence in his abilities to be the kind of quarterback. But, of course, we didn't get an opportunity to see how much evolution he's made as a passer. And I think that's the big thing that most fans are still waiting to see.
Yeah, for sure. Agree with all that. I disagree with Mike a little bit here. I think if they were playing full speed, they would have got Robbie on some of them runs, for real. I thought they were close, and they were just like, all right. Because you know what day it is. I thought the defenders were close enough to make contact. And they were a little generous with the whistle on holding too, one or two times where he would have got. And it's not that Robbie would have gotten as easily as holding, but I was like, they know who Robbie is when he's coming around the corner. They would have put on a little juice to try to get to him. Not that they would have necessarily gotten him, but they know who Robbie is. But I still agree with y'all though. It was the best showing possible for him. Maybe not passing the ball a lot, that not being part of the script was actually beneficial for Robbie Ashford. Because it comes down to what you can do with your legs, how good you can look, and when it's time to throw, how'd you look throwing? It wasn't going to be a lot. It didn't have to be a lot. He had the one really big completion to Tavares Dawson. Tavares Dawson secured the catch. And the rest of it was just making the right read, and he did. And that's the best thing you can say for Robbie on that day because you would have thought it would be similarly as easy to just make the right reads and take what the defense gives you. But, I mean, we heard, again, live action, Hugh Freeze wasn't as complimentary of every other quarterback, one in particular, when he was just expected to make the right decision on a play. So I think Robbie did. His stock rose with Hugh Freeze specifically because that seemed like the question mark coming in was their leadership ability, their character on the field and off the field. Is that locker room going to respond to you? Can I trust you? And I think Robbie made significant progress up through spring practice and up to A-Day.
Well, listen, we talked about Robbie Ashford. He was a winner. Although we're not saying he's won the starting job. I don't think anyone is saying that. But I think he's done enough, as we articulated yesterday, he's done enough to be considered a legitimate contender for this QB1 job, regardless of what the coaching staff does in the offseason with the transfer portal. Robbie is definitely one of the guys vying for that job, and he showed as much up to this point. Let's talk about another winner, guys. Talk about another winner, and there's multiple groups, multiple people involved here. I'm just going to say Auburn's running game was a winner in A-Day. That's the running backs. Pretty much, if you lined up in the backfield as a running back, you had a good day. The O-line did a really good job. Let's hear from Hugh Freeze about his assessment of the running game, the O-line improvement, the whole 9 yards.
Coach, what did you guys get better at the most during the spring, and what would you like to get better at in preseason before you play a game?
Well, I think, from today, I think you'd say overall, I think we're running the ball fairly well and getting the dirty yards from our backs. Our quarterback's helping in the run game, so I'd have to say, I think we improved that O-line some, and they look pretty decent today.
Thoughts on that, Mike?
Listen, he went on to say that he completely underestimated DeMar Alston during this presser. He made comments about DeMar. He was just like, man, I didn't give him enough credit. That guy is good. And, I mean, the running backs were clearly winners. Jarquez Hunter, winner. You know why? Because he had to play. For real. It was just, I'm set. I'm good to go.
He gave him a lot of love leading up to 8 anyway.
Man,
so he was a winner before 8
Yeah, he was winner, chicken dinner, Jarquez Hunter, right? DeMar Alston won. Sean Jackson kind of put on a show. This was a popular pick for a lot of people for 8A MVP because we figured the starters weren't going to play it, a lot. So by the numbers, somebody like Sean Jackson, but T had a big run in this one. Wait, was it called back? I
don't think they called it back.
I don't think they called it
back. Oh, they called it back. Yeah, right. There was a flag that was thrown on one of the plays. I don't think it was on Batiste' big run, but we got a chance to see him get in the open field and a little bit of what they were saying about how he's hard to tackle. I think if you combine that with Robbie Ashford, oh man, making plays every once in a while with his arm, and a lot with his legs. This offense, if this offensive line performs like that against SEC defenses, this offense will look very 2010-ish. It'll look very 2010-ish with the quarterback making plays, in the run game, the running backs getting loose because of it, and your O-line just going up there and smashing people in the mouth. Make a play or two down the field with your arm to keep defensives honest. And then you've got a three-headed monster at running back to just throw at people constantly. Woo. I don't know, man. I thought I was encouraged by what I saw. And the running backs were a big part of that. So over the last 4 games of last season, we saw that the potential this running game has. Right? So you return Jarquez Hunter, you return DeMar Alston, and then you add Batiste. Plus an O-line that had nowhere to go but up.
Yeah.
And turns out it wasn't even as bad as we thought it was in the run game because they put up 300 on Alabama. So now, again, a big part of that is the quarterback running the ball. But still, I don't know, man. I just, I liked it. If we're talking running backs, I'm including Robbie Ashford as part of the running game, man. And he's your 4th running back on the field. I know he won't like me saying that, but bro, you can run. So the run game, clear winner yesterday. Clear winner yesterday. I thought it was fun. I thought it was fun to watch, and it was great to see that in spite of the conditions as well, too, because we knew they weren't going to be able to pass the ball the way they wanted to. So it was kind of fun to see the run game thrive a little bit when everybody knew they were going to run it. So when you know it's coming and you can do it anyway, that's good. Now you're not left with, we'll talk about it later. You maybe not left with a great feeling on the other side of the ball, but it'd be a welcome change to see Auburn score some points and move the ball. I don't know. I thought they were clear winners yesterday.
B, thoughts on the run game, thoughts on Hugh Freeze's comments.
Run game is run gaming, man. Run game was what we hoped we would see from an offensive line making room over the last hour and 15 minutes. I just rewatched the scrimmage, but the running backs had more room than they've seen since like 2017. Night and day. We talking 2-3 yards upfield. And then like Damari had, he got to the hole and was like, oh, well. He checked his GPS on his phone to see which route was the quickest. And then he ran outside to get some yards.
Shut up.
It was more.
Check his Garmin.
You like that? Garmin, Damari Austin, like 19, 20. Why he got a Garmin? He don't even know what Garmin is.
I couldn't think of a GPS brand. Garmin is the only one I can think of.
GPS dead, man. It's just cell phones now. Just cell phones.
Okay, all right. Apple Maps.
Yeah.
You know you're gonna be lost using Apple Maps.
Use a Google Maps, but
taking you to places that don't exist.
Ways.
The amount of room that the running backs had was wild. wild. More often than they didn't. They had, I distinctly remember watching like Missouri, right? The Missouri game last year. And us lining up in that eye with Tank back there. And it's like, all right, Missouri's going to be 2 yards into the backfield when he gets the ball. And that's your play. Tank may make a guy miss and get back to the line, get 1 or 2 yards, or he may get tackled for a loss of 1 or 2 because no room for him to work. He was an outstanding back, and it really grinds my gears that we didn't do more for Tank on the offensive line, because I think he would have had some Auburn record book production if we had just gotten him a decent offensive line in the 3 years he was here. So I'm watching this line now. I'm like, this is all we've been asking for. We've had outstanding running backs who were able to do something with subpar line play. These guys, I mean, maybe Jarquez doesn't have a legendary year by the numbers because we're going to be splitting so much, because there are so many backs that we have that can contribute. But this is it. That's what I saw. More than the individual greatness of a running back, because it tends to look great for the running back when you've got that much room to work. So the fact that every running back that got in was eaten, it's the lineman. It's the line. We didn't really get to see, okay, how good can they pass block? Why would we? Pass like what, all of 7-8 times maybe? We weren't going to see what they could do pass blocking when that was the script. So run blocking, hey,
winner. Yeah, winner.
Hey,
hey,
for
winner
sure.
for run blocking. Yeah, it's going to be so important. I think it's going to be so important for them to just be able to, keep the ball on the ground, because if you can keep the ball on the ground, you can control the clock. Right. And if you can control the clock, you can do a lot of great things, in college football these days. So, went on the ground. It was encouraging, too, because you brought in all these linemen. Right. You brought in 9 linemen, and that's all they talked about. You brought in all these linemen, and it was good to see them go out there and block better than a lot of people remember. The last thing that's in a lot of people's mind is just a line that could not be effective. And so I think with bringing all the linemen, you're kind of validated in that, right? When they go out and they play like that, it's just like, hey, they didn't bring in a bunch of warm bodies. They actually brought in talent that improved the room. So, I thought it was good. And it wasn't a lot of, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't see a lot of trickery out there in terms of like some of those runs. They just kind of ran it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It looked straight up. And so that was smash mouth football that they played in the run game.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Let's also talk about, and this kind of features a guy. He didn't really make a big play or anything stat worthy or noteworthy yesterday, but Hugh Freeze spent time talking about Keldrick Falk, as well as some of the other freshmen that we named yesterday, as if, whether or not we were going to be able to see them flash in A-Day's game. But here's Hugh Freeze's thoughts on some of the incoming freshmen. Pretty much all these guys are guys we flipped who were committed to other programs. So let's hear Hugh Freeze's thoughts.
What type of spring did you think that Keldrick Falk had, just being a young guy and then seeing him in there today with the defense? I don't know if you were paying too much attention to him, but what did you think about him?
Yeah, it's hard for me to tell a lot until I watch the film, but I love Keldrick. I love his attitude. I love the way he comes to work. He should still be in high school. And he and Connor Liu and Can Lee really stood out as 3 freshmen that we think in the 23 class we'll look back on and say, man, we got us 3 really good ones. And number 1, he's a great human being.
High praise for these 3 guys, especially Keldrick Falk, who the 9th hour, we was able to snatch him away from Florida State. Ike, I'll start with you, man. What do you make of that type of praise? And it just seems like Falk will be a guy there at the position, at the edge position, for Auburn in the future.
Yeah, I think that listen, Coach Hugh Freeze is laser focused on his ability to recruit, and I think he knows he needs to give some confidence to everybody that, hey man, if during the recruiting process I tell you that you're going to come in here and you're going to play, or you're going to get some time, or we're going to give you a shot, I'm going to do that. And he's going to go out there at the press conferences and he's going to let people know these young men that I brought in here are going to play. And that's a signal to other guys that, hey man, when he says they're going to play, they're going to play.
Yeah.
So he knows that he needs to do that. That doesn't mean that I feel like he's being disingenuous when he talks about Keldrick Falk. I think he actually is going to be a stud. When you just look, he's built like a grown man already. Like he's not some guy that they had to come in, put him into a program. We got to put, a couple pounds on him. Nah, bro is ready today to go out there and compete. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he does. It's going to be one of those things where it's Keldrick Falk is a prospect where if he doesn't mold into an SEC caliber defensive lineman, that's bad, because he came off the bus ready. So you need to make sure you don't miss on young men like that. Right. And you're not going to continue to get guys like that if you can't take we talk about this all the time. Some guys, they're going to be pros. It doesn't matter where they line up and play football. The question is, can you get them on your program?
Right.
If Auburn can continue to land guys like that, you don't want to miss with those guys. You need to put them in the NFL. You need to showcase them. You need to highlight them. Looking forward to Keldrick Falk wrecking offensive lines for 3 years.
And I think that's a good point you made in that, yes, Keldrick Falk has been good, but I think Hugh Freeze is strategically sending a message from his pressers that say, hey, I'm putting good guys in positions to contribute at positions of need.
Yeah.
And so if I say we need you, you're going to play. You're going to get an opportunity to actually prove yourselves. And I like what he's doing from that angle. So Mike G, B. Will, any thoughts on that before we get to some comments?
Before right now, because he kind of addressed this. He was like, right now the message is, come, we need you. Please show up. And he had a bunch of recruits there. So this is a great message.
Yeah.
You got a bunch of 5-star recruits on campus. Hey man, this 4-star guy, he's gonna play. He's good. We like him. And here's some other guys that maybe you haven't heard of, or maybe you have, and they're gonna play too.
Yeah.
So showing that you do have a willingness to play the best player, right? And not always, because we seemed to, and this is something I've bemoaned over the years, is the deference to experience over talent sometimes. Instead of just putting the most talented guy on the field, it's the seniority. It's he's been here, he's earned it. I don't give a damn what you've earned. Right?
Well,
if you're not good, if you're not good,
Okay.
Well, if
there's
somebody better
it's
than you.
silly to say that somebody's earned something that they're not good at, right? Like, what are we doing?
Right.
Yeah,
so that's what I'm like. Let's put quotes
past.
around this earned word.
Right.
Did he earn it?
Yeah, that's. I mean, it's like get an attendance certificate, not playing time. Like, what are we talking about?
Right.
That's like me giving you an A because you showed up to class every day. Hey, he keeps showing up, so might as well give him. What are we doing? No, you're not gonna play. You will not be the valedictorian just because you showed up every day to school. And that's not how we're gonna. Hey, little Timmy who can barely read, come up here and give the speech for everybody because you had the best attendance in school this year.
Yeah, you in
everyone
second.
getting him sick, but he was there.
Yeah.
Bin Laden is the greatest. Hold up, Mike. At terrorism.
Hey, let's YouTube, please don't flag that comment.
So all I'm saying
What are
is
you talking about?
all this stuff in the past about guys who were the senior guys and you like.
Definitely getting flagged.
I don't give a damn who you like. I gonna take this one down.
We need all the super chats now because we have been demonetized as a channel.
Shadow ban. So yeah, it just felt like there was a deference to that in the past, right? And this is what I'm hoping. Every coach that comes in, I'm hoping we're moving past that. No favoritism. No, and even for a guy, even his comments, going back to his comments about Robbie, he wasn't sure, right? But he was able to change his mind. And I like that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
These guys who are good team guys, great, man, they should have a role. They should definitely have a role. But, keeping the most talented guy on the bench because of some bullcrap seniority philosophy is crap. And if Keldrick Falk is the best one, put him out there. That's it, man. I mean, I think that's a better signal to the future recruits that are coming into your program than, the converse, which is going to be, I'm not ever going to be able to supplant somebody just because they've been here longer.
Yeah.
Right.
It's such an old school, high school crap. That's like,
Jazzy.
Oh, dude. I'm done.
Man, Jazzy, we appreciate you, man.
Met Jazzy for the first time last night, by the way. Great guy.
Yeah, man. I had it's all an aside, but had an opportunity to meet Haley.
Yep.
For the first time. I've met Jazzy before, but kicked it with Jazzy as well. Kicked it with JG Tate this weekend. Corey Weber this weekend, man. So it's good times.
Sweet. Good to see the family meeting up for sure.
Let me say this though about the not playing the best guys. There are some situations where the best guys also might have some impulse control issues, and which is a reason where they're like, "Hey, man, I can't trust you completely," and that has been a reason in the past why some guys see more seats than they probably should. So it's not always, hey, you're killing it at practice, but this other very mediocre player in front of you is like a fourth-year starter, and you're way better than yes, listen, if you're young but you're good, you're going to get on the field because coaches need to win. Now, every coach has a different metric and a standard for what is this hurdle you need to clear to get on the field, and are you going to meet it? Because I think the last regime, a lot of it was clear this hurdle to get on the field. And it wasn't necessarily because you were doing something bad. It's just, here's my personal hurdle for you. Clear it. And it didn't really matter if you were the best player or not. It's like, wait, but can I just, nope, clear that hurdle. And so what ends up happening is if there's nothing really holding you back, except something in the coach's head that you need to, some criteria you need to meet. If the guy in front of you doesn't, I don't know, go off the field and kick some puppies, then you're just going to be on the bench. Like, hold up, man. So somebody's got to get hurt. They've got to do something just terrible.
Was it Tank that was his freshman year? He didn't start the first few games, and we were
That is correct.
Like, wait, why is this
it
guy
wasn't until
starting
Georgia
again?
when the few guys ahead of him was injured that he got a chance to showcase.
Yeah, now, to be fair, they didn't get a spring, so it's not like they got to see Tank for 4 weeks in the fall camp, and even the fall camp was like weird because of COVID. So I don't know if I'm not faulting him 100%,
bro.
Come on, I ain't giving him a pass on that one. I'm not giving him a pass.
I don't know. Like we're discovering who Robbie has made elite in the spring. We're discovering what Batie can do in the spring. This offensive line might be brand new just in the spring. I think that's a good evaluation period. You take that away as along with installing a new offense with that 2020 season. Now, I'm not telling you Gus was the greatest evaluator of who needed to be on the field, because I definitely think he was not. But I see why you might not have been able to identify Tank as early as possible for that 2020 season.
How many games in? It
was just, I think it was Georgia, so it was like the second or third game. I think it was the second game.
By the second game, he was in because he was the healthy running back.
It was a Georgia game.
Yeah, and it was the second half of that game.
Okay,
Right.
Yeah, so he didn't start that game.
No.
He didn't start it. No,
He was
Chavez got hurt. And
crazy
was it
plays.
DJ James? Not DJ James. The running back that was in front of him.
Williams.
Yeah,
DJ Williams.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what it was.
Wow. Yeah, man. See, again, that's kind of what I'm talking about. It was like it took you a few games to figure it out. When I think it was pretty obvious. Like, get him on the field. I mean, the only excuse you would have had would have been he didn't know the blocking schemes or he wasn't picking up blitz protection.
Which again, he didn't get any spring, so that might have been the case. I don't know. Y'all know I'm not caping for Gus.
Oh,
I'm not caping for Gus.
Put him on the field. Hugh Freeze, listen, man. Hugh Freeze came in, and but despite the competition mantra, he straight up just said, "Jarquez, I've seen enough of Jarquez Hunter to know that he's the best." All right, that's how we felt about Tank. He ain't coached Jarquez a single down. And he was the backup running back. Now, mind you, there's enough tape on him.
Right.
But I'm just saying, Like, there's some things you just know, and I
Not a lot of tape on Damari Austin, and he was like,
listen, and that's something to make note of too, Ike, is that coaches do come in with preconceived notions about players.
Right.
There are coaches like a Hugh Freeze who's willing to pivot and say, you know what, I was wrong about dude. Or some of them never pivot.
I underestimated Damari Austin.
Yeah.
He's a dude.
Yeah.
Okay, great. That's awesome. Now, we always knew Damari was a dude.
Yeah.
We're just waiting on him to catch up.
For sure.
So I'm just saying, if there's a dude, get the dudes on the field immediately and stop playing this seniority game, man. I'm so sick of it. I think this program in particular has been held back a lot by that. When Cam came in, they didn't waste a summer playing around like they didn't know who the quarterback was going to be.
I mean,
right?
It was kind of like, I mean, you
saw
who else was in that room. You saw who else was in that room. Who was in that room? Who was in that room?
They were very clear, though, that he was so hard to evaluate. But they did make a jump. It was somewhat of a jump for them to just go ahead and name him the starter right after the spring.
All right. You got Ray Lewis out there throwing 60-yard bombs. It's not a hard decision.
Yeah, but it's not. I think that is 2020 bias, right? Like that's hindsight bias. That's hindsight bias on Cam. Nobody knew what Cam was going to be until he was. And they had to say early on, he's going to be a dude, get him out there. He's the best talent. It would have been very easy to lean on one of the guys that had been in the room and say, oh, well, we're going to start with him and we'll see what, you know what I mean? They didn't even play that game. They just went to the guy who was clearly the best talent. I don't think it was as clear cut as you guys are making it. I just don't know, man. I feel like they just went with the guy, and the team benefited from them making the decision right after the spring, rather than trying to play we're going to drive competition game. Right? Like
they did have 10 games of JUCO tape in the JUCO championship tournament bracket for Cam though, because he won.
Yeah, it's still JUCO tape.
It's still tape.
Right. It's still JUCO tape.
Hey guys,
you gotta have tape.
Guys, this is 2023. Let's get back. Let's focus on let's focus on now. Let me get some comments. Let's get to the break because we still got to talk about people who did not have the best A-Day experience. Stuart Donald says, so basically Hugh said Robbie Ashford has improved so much under this new offense. He's focused.
Go away.
He's having fun. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a dark horse for Heisman. And Mike G
that was good. That was good. I like that, Stu. I like that, Stu.
Robbie looks like he's settling down and punishing defenses for making mistakes.
Right. Well, that's what he said. That's what he said, right? He says he's got quieter feet in the pocket, better pocket presence. I think we saw that. I thought we saw that. Use your athleticism, young man. Like, don't abandon your athleticism just because you're trying to prove you can be a pocket guy. Use the tools you have at your disposal. The things that make you superior, use them, right? And just picking and choosing his spots on where to use them is the maturation process he has to go through.
Ed Darby says, if Auburn is capable of running the ball, it will be a mirror of the 2013-14 team with Ashford. It would be really scary if Auburn gets a true number one wide receiver, but will wide receivers come if Auburn is run heavy?
It'll be a right now thing. It won't be a forever thing. If Hugh's committed to doing what's going to work right now, as most coaches should be, what's going to work right now. So we got an offensive line that can actually mush and running backs that look stellar, and a quarterback that can jet with that kind of speed while being decisive and making the throws that he has to make, then they're going to do it, and they're going to do it to death until somebody stops it, and they absolutely should. Now, that doesn't mean that the pass game can't develop as the season wears on, because I absolutely think it can. And that's probably what you're looking at. The wide receivers with Robbie as a starter, all y'all working together, go. And
his deep ball is good enough, though, that I think that this won't be a huge issue.
And you got to remember, they had every intention of throwing the ball yesterday. So Hugh Freeze wants to throw the football. I don't think that should be lost on us just because of what we observed on a rainy A-Day.
I think it's a blessing and a curse for sure with the wide receiver comment, though. I do believe that, it's not just about whether or not he can throw the deep ball. It's going to be about number of touches, too. And not seeing a lot of opportunities there could be something that makes people. But again, to your point, see, it was raining. So, like, do you want to see quarterbacks make sloppy throws? That's not really encouraging either. So just play within what the weather allows and get out of there without injuries.
Right. Yep.
Lutson Kirkin says, appreciate the super chat. King Martner, thoughts on that? Actually, we're going to give you our thoughts after the break because we're going to talk receivers. Guys, appreciate you commenting. Continue to comment. We will grab those as we can. You are indeed watching the Weekend Tailgate. Share this content on social media, Facebook, Twitter. Smash the like button. Help us with the YouTube algorithm and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Let's pause to acknowledge our show sponsors.
This edition of the War Report is made possible by our generous sponsors. AuburnSports.com. For news and notes on all things Auburn Sports, head over to AuburnSports.com. Athletic Architects. For young athletes looking to secure their financial futures, let Athletic Architects help you start to build your financial house. Head over to BuildTheHouse.com. And our giveaway sponsor, GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. If you want the best in the business at restaurant logistics, check out our friends at GWT2Energy.com.
Hey, listen, become a patron member. Help us out here, guys. We're covering a lot of live events for you guys. We're at press conferences. We're all over the place. The War Report is $5.99 a month to become a patron member. Ike's going to be breaking down A-Day film, but that's going to be patron only. So please don't add us on social media about why 95% of our content is behind the paywall. It's not. It's like 2% behind the paywall. This is the 2% that you guys help support when you become a patron member. You can also give the gift of film review to somebody else by gifting a membership. Look for that gifted membership button. Hit that. YouTube chooses these at random, so you have to keep your eye on your email for that gifted membership. Once it comes your way, you get 1 month, and then you got to make the decision for yourself on whether to continue on. But we appreciate our community for doing this. Guys, the gifted membership thing is going amazing. So keep this up. Our patron memberships are growing because of this program. Check us out on podcasts, every single podcast platform, the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. We have a lot of fun on podcasts. Amen Corner, Mike Mack and Memes, Morning Drops, Lives, it's all there. And podcast exclusive content. So if you want to hear what's being said on Amen Corner, you got to listen to the podcast because we're not putting that out on YouTube. That's for our podcast listeners only. So subscribe on podcast, download, continue to support us on the audio only end as well. We're giving away a t-shirt in honor of Auburn landing a big commitment. AU, hashtag get your weight up in the comments. This is brought to you by GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. Make sure you spell that right. We're going to pull in just a little bit for the winner, but you got to be here to win your t-shirt. So you definitely don't want to miss that. And then want to give a shout out to our sponsor, The Rogue Shop. Graphics not here, but you guys know the deal. TheRogueShop.com. Great sponsor. Go over there for all your herbal supplement needs.
All right, guys. Listen, let's get back into it. Let's talk about people who had a less than ideal showing yesterday. I don't want to call them losers because, yes.
Let's talk about these losers. Yep.
Who had a less than ideal showing? We gave a lot of praise to the run offense. Should we be concerned about the run defense? Got a comment here before I give you guys the weigh in. D. Williams says there's nothing to worry about the run defense. They went up against an offense that knows their every move. So there's going to be lapses. It's just spring. D. Williams with some perspective there. But what are your guys' thoughts? I'll start with you because, again, Ike B, we kind of talked about this last week and gave our thoughts. Haven't heard from you, Mike. What did you make of the offense seeming to just grind out yards when they wanted to yesterday?
The Sunshine Pump version of this is that the run offense is just so good that, these guys are not bad. But, listen, man, it was – I don't think you'll ask anybody on that D-line and they'll say they're happy with how that went yesterday. Nobody. As a matter of fact, we did ask somebody on the D-line, and he wasn't happy with how it went. So there is improvement to be made on the defensive line in terms of run defense. I I felt like they didn't win enough. And I liked how the running backs did, but it was every running back. They all ate. So it wasn't like we saw like one special talent. You got beat. The offensive line beat them. They got beat.
So maybe Cam Stutz wasn't capping when he was talking about how well they had performed.
Yeah, I'm just saying, we heard that the offense dominated a scrimmage. I find it hard to believe that you can dominate a scrimmage without your offensive line dominating. Mm-hmm. So let's just call it what it is. It was wet. Yes, the conditions were not good. And yes, there's a familiarity, but that familiarity works both ways. You got dominated. That's it. And maybe this is the wake-up call they need going into summer and fall camp to get their weight up and figure out some things, because it's only going to get harder against SEC offenses, right? And so, it's a bad performance is not always an indicator of how it's going to be in the fall, but it could be a good wake-up call for them. I think they've got some ways to go. And I'm just telling you, I don't think you can sunshine pump the run defense. From yesterday, it wasn't good. And if you ask them, they'll tell you it wasn't good. So I'm gonna go with them and just say it wasn't good.
Yeah,
there was a bad performance. Now it doesn't mean that that's how they're gonna play every game, right? We see great defenses have off days.
Yeah,
but this was an off day at the very least, and they're going to need to improve on that, or it's going to be a long fall in terms of letting teams run the ball. We can't let any other team run the ball like that on us.
Agreed. All right. Well, listen, Ike, B, if y'all don't have anything else, we can move on to the next group. The next group that I think suffered was Auburn's passing attack, just simply due to weather conditions. That's QBs, that's receivers. We were asked about our thoughts about King and Martner. We can kind of elaborate on that for Letzenkirchen, but let's hear first from Hugh Freeze in terms of how he felt about the plan to pass, and what actually happened yesterday.
Hugh, on a day like this, once you know what the weather's going to be like, you have an idea, how much does that change how you go about things, and do you still feel you got what you wanted out of this?
Well, I mean, it obviously changed, but, we might have a game or two next year where it's that way, and so we can lean back on this experience. But like I said earlier, we kind of we had met offensively yesterday, and really had said, man, let's see who can throw this thing and who can catch it and who can get open, and so that was really the only change. Is that probably wasn't the most feasible thing to do today.
So obviously we didn't get the chance to really see guys like Martner. They had a few passes thrown their way. Again, difficult to catch in conditions like that. Some balls slipped through some of their hands. So we really didn't get a chance to see what they can do outside of seeing Chick catch that seam route that was thrown beautifully by Robbie Ashford. Outside of that, not much to make of the passing game. So a little bit of disappointing to see. I think we're still waiting to see what that looks like and if there is improvement. But thoughts on that, guys?
Yeah. Was there a fair weather sighting?
He was out there.
He was out there. Yeah, I mean,
he was out there, but
had a target.
They didn't target him. Yeah.
We had a really bad. Alec and I were talking about this. We had a really bad vantage point in terms of trying to see who was on the field, because the glass was wet to the press box and the numbers were really obscure. So Dawson was out there, but his number looked like a 1. And it was like, who's that? Well, we know Finley wears 1, so it could have been him. I was looking for Camden Brown, Landon King. Listen, any receiver who didn't catch a ball that was thrown at them is a loser from yesterday, because there were not a bunch of passes. So if you got a catchable ball thrown at you and you didn't catch it, you lost yesterday. It was a good opportunity to show that with limited opportunities, you can still make an impact on the game. And now they changed the plan, and Hugh Freeze talked about that in that clip. I don't think they wanted to go out and put on a sloppy show of dropped passes and, receivers slipping, trying to cut out of breaks because of the conditions. So they went with the way that they went. So I think part of the reasons the receivers lose is just because they lost the opportunities that they normally would have gotten. They wanted to go out there and air it out a little bit. They didn't get a chance to do that. But according to Hugh Freeze, guess what they didn't do? They didn't put anything on tape for anybody to study in terms of the passing game. So if you want to know what Auburn's going through the air, good luck. You're not going to learn that from A-Day. That's exactly what he wanted. I don't think he's losing any sleep over having to run A-Day like he ran it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think he cares. Because it's a wasted practice to him anyway. That's how he feels about it. It was wasted, right? So, we're not going to play Troy and raise money for charity. Hugh's not interested. So it was interesting to see there. But, yeah, I think the receivers just did not benefit much from that yesterday in any way.
Yeah.
If you're Dawson, you made a big catch. You made the biggest catch of A-Day, right?
Pretty much.
So,
pretty much. Yeah. All right. Well, staying with the passing game, we talked about Robbie Ashford. When you think about someone like a TJ Finley, do you think this game, this A-Day game went the way he probably would have hoped it would have gone?
No.
All right. So hear me out. We have repeatedly said that there's going to be a quarterback transfer after the spring. Right? We've said that. Not all these quarterbacks are going to be on this roster. If I were going by A-Day, I'd have to say it's probably going to be TJ. I don't know how you could look at A-Day in particular. Now, they didn't throw the ball a lot, so it's again, I'm adding that caveat. But Hugh Freeze made some comments about the 1s, 2s, and 3s. So remember the earlier comment about narrowing anything down? Cap. There were 1s, 2s, and 3s. And I thought it was pretty clear what the 1s, 2s, and 3s were, right? I mean, it was at quarterback. It was clearly, to me, Robbie Ashford, Holden Gerner, TJ Finley. I think that's what we saw. And so, you sent him out there third. And at the end of the game, when it was a final drive to win it, I turned to Ike and I was like, who do you think they're going to send out here to win the game for what was supposed to be the game-winning drive? And Ike looks at me and was like, well, TJ needs it the most.
Yeah.
He needs this last drive the most. By the end of the game, it was, and I concur with that sentiment. Based on how it went. Now, we're strictly just talking about A-Day. We're not talking about the totality of the spring. We're talking about who won A-Day and who lost A-Day. And I just think, if A-Day is any indication, TJ Finley is going to transfer. And he was asked about whether he would stay if they brought in a portal QB. And I think that after Saturday, the most likely to stay because they feel like they're in the race are Holden and Robbie. If I were TJ and they brought in another QB, I would 100% transfer. So, I mean, A-Day is the culmination, right, of all those practices up to this point. And I mean, that's just how I feel about it, right?
Well,
and that's not a comment on what I feel like his potential is. This is a comment on what I feel like his situation here is at Auburn.
Well, let's kind of get a better gauge on whether or not we think that may be a possibility. Here's Hugh Freeze talking about the portal and QBs.
Is your quarterback room set, or might you bring in another player through the portal?
Yeah, I think the transfer portal opens soon, and we are open to any position that would help us improve our team as long as they fit within the culture, and that includes the quarterback room. I don't. I know people make a big deal out of that, but the bottom line is you're constantly, I think competition is helpful. and those that handle it right. And those that don't, they're probably not going to be the winners for you anyway. And so, we're open. Do I think we can win some games with what we have? Yes, I do. But I don't want to ever be put in a box where I say something and I do the opposite. So I don't know the answer. I don't know if we are. I know that I would be open to it.
So again, many people have heard that and says, "Oh, he's definitely going to the portal," right? But we do know if he does go to the portal, I don't know how. Again, we already said we don't see how the 3 QBs we have on scholarship all return in the fall. Period. But it's almost as if they're going to the portal and they find, let's just say, a QB who checks all the boxes for this coaching staff is in the portal, and they go after them. It's almost like you're forcing a QB almost to leave, because I don't see how QB sees how he fits in if he knows where he stands currently leaving spring practice. Thoughts on that, guys?
Yeah, it's over for somebody.
I mean, listen, man. I hate saying stuff like this. I don't think, in retrospect, I don't think TJ really wanted to be there yesterday. I just don't. I don't think he really. I think he had in his mind he's out the door already. He tried to. I think I look at his body language to start the game and how he started out versus how he did at the end. I think the competitive nature of TJ Finley made him engage a little bit more later. But I think seeing how his demeanor changed after the first couple of series, and Robbie goes down there, he leads him on a score. Holden goes down there, puts him scoring opportunity. They missed but TJ's drive was 3 and out the first time, right? Second drive didn't do so well. He had the ill-advised deep throw. I think that TJ woke up mentally later, but I don't think he came locked into to 8-8 yesterday. Yeah. And I think that hurt him in the perception that he leaves with that. But in my mind, at some point in time during this process, because I do know from talking to people that TJ was engaged during the spring. I know he actually got engaged to be married. I mean, but he was locked in during the spring, wanting to win this competition. But at some point in time, when he realized he wasn't going to win it outright, I think he was just like, all right, let me just get these grades together. And I think he's ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, of the quarterbacks, he is going to, Holden still has a freebie, but TJ, I think, is on pace to graduate.
I think he's going to graduate this summer.
Summer, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. So
I think he still has to take classes this summer before he can get out of there.
Yeah. So I want to say he's still got a freebie transfer that's coming up, right? We know Robbie doesn't have that option really, not without sitting, and Holden has still got some time in front of him. So, yeah, I don't know how we look at 8A, because technically Hugh Freeze did note that the reps were pretty even between the three. The way they did it, I did not like the form. I didn't like how the format played out. The game started. We didn't know the game started. Everybody was looking at each other in the press box.
I think everybody was kind of there was no announcement of any. It was just because normally you'll have the eagle fly. The eagle didn't fly because of the weather, right?
The clock was off. Yeah.
Yeah. It was super weird. We were at third down and I was like, wait, what?
Right.
The game is going on? Because there was no kickoff. There was just nothing. It was just very unceremoniously, let's go.
Yeah, I thought they were running out for a warm-up when they actually started the game.
Yeah.
Because there was I think there was 5 minutes on the clock or something. And it was the countdown from to the start of the game still. And yeah, and it was just really weird. That format needs some work. I thought it was very haphazard, and it looked like they decided it 45 minutes before the game. That's what it felt like. But yeah, I mean, that being said, the reps were even, and I was trying to know the combinations of players they were putting out there with the quarterbacks. And it just felt to me like the way they put it out there, he's behind the other two. So somebody, listen, man, somebody's gone. There's no way. There's no way if you want to play, all three of these quarterbacks are going to stay. Somebody should be learning after the spring where they stand, and they should be able to take that information and make the best decision for themselves.
Right.
If you're Robbie Ashford, you heard all you needed to hear from you Freeze post game. I think he got better. He's been fun to coach. He's doing the things that I'm asking him to do to be a quarterback for me. Yep. He didn't say that about anybody else. Now, do you assume that the other two are already doing those things? So he didn't have to say it? I don't think so, man. I just think, you pay attention to what he says and you note what he's not saying. And, what I think happened this spring was Robbie Ashford was seen to have a bunch of potential, so they coached him really hard. They coached him hard to make sure that he realizes that potential, because they're probably going to have to depend on him in the fall in some kind of way. Regardless of whether they bring in a QB, because I know B has been on record about saying he doesn't feel like the QB is on the roster, but you still need a backup, even if they bring in a starter. And, based on what we saw last year, there's a 50% chance you might have to go to your backup at some point during the season for meaningful play.
Hugh Freeze did it at Liberty last year.
Yeah, man.
We did.
Half the teams in the SEC did.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Alabama had to ask Jalen Milroe to win a game. So I don't know, man. I think it's the time to start giving players real feedback. I keep asking this question, man. How are these players getting feedback about where they stand? Every staff handles this differently. We heard it from Chris Todd, man. Like, he thought he lost the quarterback race right before they told him he won it. And I'm just thinking, man, how could you go into that meeting with no idea where you stand?
Yeah.
Wow. He clearly had no idea because he won, and he was like, oh, well, they're calling me in third. So I lost. No, I just hope these players are getting real feedback, man, and that they're not stringing anybody along that has no shot if they already know it.
Yeah. Well, good talk, gentlemen. We have some comments we want to grab before we go to the next phase. But before we do that, let's get to the giveaway. Again, we are giving away. It is this mug, right?
Nope.
Or is I know what it is. It's the
AU
AU t-shirt. We're giving away the AU t-shirt, courtesy of GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. Drop the hashtag. Ike is ready to go. Y'all know what it is.
Bloop.
Let's get to it. Let's get to this shmoney. You know what I'm saying? James Buckley. What up?
James Buckley. And I feel confident knowing that you're here.
Yeah, he's here.
But
sticks around,
you still got to let us know. Still got to let us know that you're here. Congrats to you. Let me grab some of these supers. We have a challenge. Challenge.
Yeah. Welcome to another Jazzy Challenge.
He says 100 if you can tell me what mega star Haley and I met yesterday. We're still
Mike G.
I'm going to go with
Frank Thomas.
No. Sudi Lee. It was Sudi, right? It was that girl that hates Auburn and never goes to anything at Auburn. Right.
It's so ridiculous that people have come up with this narrative. Like this one, it wasn't the noted gymnast hater from Bama, but somebody was on Twitter the other day talking about Auburn got lucky because SUNY had a relationship with the coach's brother before they got there. And I was like, no, wait a minute. You're telling me that athletes pick schools based on their relationship with coaches now? Is this a new development? Like, what kind of stupid statement is that? Well, she only went there because she had a relationship with the coach.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's called recruiting.
Okay. What does that have to do
Breaking
with whether or not
news.
she loves being here? That's just stupid.
Yeah.
I really like this coach because, I really like him. And we've been talking a little bit. You know what I mean? He seems like a guy that can coach me up,
What a moron. Like
James
Oh,
Buckley's
sorry.
not a moron, and he's also here. So, James, congrats to
Hey.
you, sir. You already know to do business at the War Rapport, just in case you have not been paying attention, which we know you have. Email us, business at the War Rapport. We need your shirt size, physical address, and once we receive that, it is coming straight to you. Congratulations, sir. Thanks for supporting. Canoe Man says, time to hit the like button, everyone. Please do that. Please follow the wise words of Canoe Man. And hit the
Algorithms
like
are a
button.
real thing, man.
Yep.
The algo needs this, right? So just if you're watching, just hit like, log into your other account, hit like from that one too. You know what I mean? Create one for your grandmother and hit like from that one. Anything you can do to help us.
For sure. For sure. The Walker Show says, after 15 practices, do y'all like what y'all have seen in Hugh Freeze as a head coach?
I would say I like that there is a lot of emphasis put on recruiting because that's how you build a program. So the energy there seems good, and it's going to need to stay there if Auburn is going to continue to build in the right direction. So I like the emphasis on recruiting, and when you see him during a practice, man, he's bouncing around recruiting. I think every practice we've been to, there's been players invited or high school coaches. There's a lot of energy being put into that right now. So yeah, I do.
Yeah, that's the biggest difference. The biggest difference is recruiting seems to be priority number one. Locker room and culture and buy-in seems to be priority number two. And I think that's absolutely.
He actually mentioned the whole culture buy-in thing in the press conference yesterday too, which I thought was interesting. He's like, you're never going to get 100% buy-in from everybody. It doesn't matter whether it's a football team, your church, it doesn't happen. So you're gonna rock with the guys who are doing it the right way and keep moving. Basically, he's like, this whole concept of everybody has to be bought in is not real. And
right.
He's 100% correct.
Church. Only 80% of us believe in Jesus.
Hey, listen, we might all believe, but we don't like the pastor.
If you've been in church long enough, you know exactly what he meant by that.
Yeah, for real. But
you know exactly what he meant by that.
Recruiting as the number one priority.
It is funny.
Recruiting as the number one priority increases the likelihood that you're going to be successful, and that solves the problem of the rest of the buy-in. Even if everybody doesn't just vibe with how you play guys, with how you run your offense, be on a winning program. People will just hang on to a winning program. They'll hang around a little longer for a winning program. Solving that problem first with talent gives you leeway on buy-in and culture. So I agree. Recruiting is number one for him, and that's clear for sure.
One last comment or question before we get into the next segment from Erica Radney. Appreciate you hanging out with us. She says, question, QB1 can't run but makes the right reads. QB2 can run but may struggle with reads. QB3 may struggle with reads but a little more accurate. Which QB do you pick? I'm going QB1.
If you make the right reads, that's the QB that you're probably going to pick if your focus is going to be on passing the ball.
Right. Does he have Does he have protect? Does QB1 have the protection though? Does he have
we don't know that off of this question, but just in general, I'm assuming you have all those things in place. You're just trying to figure out which QB to go with.
Yeah, I think if you have pass protection, you go with QB1. If you don't, you take a little strong look at QB2.
If you've got an offensive line and running backs that can do what we did yesterday, then I'm rocking with two. If they're further along than our wide receivers are.
Yeah. There's a lot around this question that would help me to answer it better. I think if let's just take our actual QBs and talk about what they are and what they're not. Maybe I talked about this yesterday on the reaction show. I know Mike and I might have talked about this, but if I were to talk about who our QBs are, I don't think that they fit rightly into this mold of what you have laid out here, Erica. But, you know, Robbie is the quarterback. I don't think Robbie struggles with his ability to read. I think he makes pretty good reads. Sometimes he just doesn't make the right throw. And that's been a thing. If you've watched the film stuff that I've talked about with Robbie, it's picking the right. It's like baseball, which this is pitching is awful for Auburn right now. So maybe we don't want any baseball analogies about this. But it's like, all right, I need to pick either throw my off speed here, or I need to throw my fastball. Too often Robbie's picking the fastball, and it's like that ain't the right one for this scenario. You should have took a little something off of that, right?
Right.
If he can get better at that, the ball is usually going to the right receiver at the right time. It's just he's not making the right kind of throw to get it to him in that scenario.
Right.
So that's not really Robbie's issue, in my opinion, when looking at his film. For TJ, it is definitely, am I throwing it to the right guy? Too often. It's like that wasn't the right decision in that scenario.
Or at the right time.
Yeah, you shouldn't have that's not when you're supposed to make that throw right there.
Yeah.
Let's not do that. But when he does make the right throw, it looks beautiful, right?
Right.
He can hit the stuff because he has the arm, he has the ability, but the read and the progression stuff for him, the clock isn't there sometimes because he's not going through his progressions quickly enough post snap. Pre snap, he understands alignment, all that. It's the post snap stuff that he's got to work on, right? For Holden, it is a little bit of making the right reads sometimes, but he can make the throws. If the read is right, the throw is going to be there. He showed me some with his legs yesterday. I know I was gushing a little bit over this yesterday. Everyone's like, it's the A-Day game. You can't. No, bro. I didn't know the man could run. I'm sorry.
Especially after the Missouri
run,
game.
And this is a thing. I'm not saying that he's going to be an elite runner. I'm saying he looked natural doing it. Yeah. It wasn't like one of those things where you're like, yeah, he ran, but I don't know.
Like when Peyton Manning would run.
Right.
Like, what are you doing? Just
lay
down.
Bro. Like, what are we doing? Like, no, he didn't. He looked like, okay, he got a little, somebody, one of the people in the comments says this a lot when we talk about Holden. He's sneaky athletic. He's a guy that's like, oh, I didn't expect you to take off running there. And he could go get 7-8 yards. A defense not expecting that guy to run is always going to be dangerous because when he does run, nobody's looking for it. He's just going to take off and he's going to be like, oh. And when he does it, he can actually go get yardage with it. I like to be able to see that from him because that gives you a dynamic of a guy that is going to be useful. So I think that we have something in those two young men with Robbie and his ability to be dynamic with his legs, making the right reads. If he starts to do the stuff that Coach Hugh Freeze says he's made progress on, which is quieting his feet down in the pocket and not feeling I got to take off running, and actually throwing the passes in the proper manner to the receivers when he identifies them, you got two good quarterbacks in your room. You got two good quarterbacks in your room.
Good comments, gentlemen. Jazzy Joe says, let's go. We were correct. Suni Lee. Still fanboy.
He just wanted an opportunity for people to know he met Suni yesterday. That's all.
That's right. Hanging up, get that picture, print it up, hanging on your wall. Who else got gold medal Olympians in their prime? Just pictures with them chilling.
Put it on the truck. All right. Let them
hang the banner.
Hang the banner.
Ben Bloodworth says Denver Jones was such a needed W for AU basketball. Let's talk about that, gentlemen.
Listen, what a great name, Denver Jones. Like, when your parents name you something like that, you got to be good at something, right? Like,
Nuggets gonna be at every game scouting them out. Got to.
Right, Denver Jones. Wait, before we get into Denver, let me address something real quick, guys. Yesterday was the absolute worst day to go out to watch a football game. For those fans that did go, kudos to you, because it was cold and it was rainy and it was unpleasant. It was not a pleasant day. But Auburn announced,
like, just walking to the stadium literally was miserable. Like, let's be clear
miserable
about that. Yeah,
it was very miserable. Auburn announced that there were attendance was 16,000 something, right? And that is based on tickets sold. Now, I don't think that 16,000 people showed up, But this social media narrative that it was like empty and there were like 50 people there is really stupid. And somebody posted a video and it was like blurry with the water on the glass and you couldn't even see. But on the left side, up under the overhang, under the upper deck, everyone was crammed in under there watching the game. It was a lot. It was a lot, like butt to butt crammed in under there, just trying to watch the game comfortably. So there were more people. I would say there were at least 10,000 people that showed up. But so many people have said we bought 6 tickets but only used 3 because my grandmother was supposed to be one of those and she wasn't going to go out in the cold. Right. And, we were going to wheel a wheelchair through. You know what I mean? It was just there were people there. There were people there. And I think it was very unfortunate that the timing dictated that it was being played during literally what felt like the one time of week where it rained like that.
Yeah.
Because it was cloudy and overcast all week, but it was warm and the rain held off for the most part down here. It was really unfortunate. But I would say, I know I made a plea Wednesday for fans to show up, and a lot of people did. Under the circumstances, the weather was worse than even I had anticipated, guys, going into it. But to Ike's point, man, just the walk from the parking lot to the stadium was just miserable. So if you showed up, kudos to you, because that was hard to enjoy the football game in that. It really was.
Yeah,
it was very difficult to enjoy.
Yeah, appreciate you guys for coming out and supporting, regardless of weather, for sure. Let's talk about Denver, shall we? D-Lev says Denver picks us over Bama's. Eat that Quaker Oats. I like that. That was good job.
Eat that Quaker Oats.
I
heard that one yet. Quaker Oats. That's
good
funny.
job. Here's some information on our latest basketball transfer. He is a transfer guard he's a wing player from FIU, Florida International. He's from New Market, Alabama, 6'4", 190, 195 pounds. Last year, he averaged 20 points per game, shot 55% from the field, 37% from three-point land, 85% from the charity stripe last year. He will enroll in this summer and will have 2 years of eligibility remaining. And Young Pearl is credited for bringing this guy into the fold. Stephen Pearl there. So, Ike, I'll start with you. What do you make of this pickup? How you feel about it?
Score. He can flat out score, man.
Feels like a bucket.
The dude can just score, man. And he's, he's a guy that our backcourt has been missing for the last couple of years, who is just isolation. You can get him the ball, he's going to score it. He can play off the ball, swing it to him, he can knock it down. He can get to the hole, and he's not going to get lost amongst the trees. He can handle the ball. Yeah. He gives a different dynamic to the Auburn offense. And I think we've had since probably, gosh, I don't know, man. I'm trying to think of the last guard that I can realistically say, okay, that guy he's just a flat out scorer, because, I think Isaac Okoro as a wing player was good, but he wasn't like a scorer like that. He was really more of an energy defensive stopper, leaper type of guy. Chuma wasn't really a guard. I mean, he plays guard and so maybe tournament Chuma is probably a good comparison for a guy who you can just get him the ball and go get a bucket. But you haven't really. I mean, Samir Dowdy, maybe but Samir
Harper, honestly, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, Harper's a different man. I don't like comparing Jared Harper to
Dowdy. Could score, but he a bucket getter.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Samir Dowdy was a ball handler. Bryce Brown was a shooter, though.
He's just a shooter.
He was just a shooter. He was spot up.
Yeah, this isn't a guard that Auburn.
Sharif could get to the basket, but wasn't a shooter.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This isn't the kind of guard that Auburn really has had under Coach Pearl. This is going to be different. This is what we wanted Alan Flanagan to be from a guard position
standpoint.
Is just like a guy. Just get him the ball, let him work one-on-one every now and then. If he gets an open shot, he's going to be able. He's a scorer, man, and I'm looking forward to seeing him light it up. I'm looking forward to it.
How do you like that pairing with him and Trey Donaldson in the backcourt?
I love it because I think that they play off of what each other do. Like Trey has shown the ability to be able to spot up and shoot, right? So if it's late clock now, you don't have to worry about whether or not Trey is going to have to go one-on-one. It's like, all right, cool. Get Denver the ball. Let Trey be off the ball. If they want to try to double team Denver, all right, cool. Trey got it. He can knock down the open shot because I think that Denver's the kind of guy who can get him the ball when he's open. So I think that's a good pairing. And then you factor in the fact that you're going to have Aiden Holloway coming in as well.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was like, I think maybe they might even be looking more towards Aiden Holloway. Man, they needed shooting. They needed shooting, and they needed a pure scorer because that has been Auburn's issue. Is just when it's time to find scoring, sometimes they find it like super prolifically, and then other times it's just non-existent and nobody can get a bucket.
Right.
So, and to the point where even like guys who are solid free throw shooters in clutch situations are going to the free throw line and missing free throws. Like just can't get a bucket when they need it. So adding a guy who's an 85% free throw shooter, is real. To me, it's like an underrated. I think it's an underrated stat for Auburn. And somebody. My question would be to Ike, like, is he somebody that makes people around him better? Like, is his game like one of those things where like he's like, is everybody gonna eat because Denver's on the court?
I think how he would make the team better, not necessarily like as from a facilitation standpoint, I don't know, but he is a smart basketball player from what I'm watching. So it's not as if he's taking a bunch of ill-advised shots just because he can shoot, but because you have someone that defenses have to focus on from the perimeter, it makes it where other guys will just have more opportunities because they're like, all right, well, cool, we're just going to take away this dude. And it's like, all right, well, we'll use him as the decoy.
Yeah.
Cool. We'll run the offense through and make you guys commit resources in that direction and get it to somebody else. The guy who benefits the absolute most from this is Janai Broome.
Mm-hmm.
If Denver can make post-entry passes, which seem to be a difficult thing for our guards here the last couple of years, if Denver can make post-entry passes, the space that he provides because he can actually shoot makes Janai Broome that much more lethal in the post.
Yeah, makes room. Now, I'll ask you this, Ike, because you've started to scout Denver. I have not. Defensively, Bruce Pearl ain't gonna put no slouches out there.
Mm-hmm.
He will not. And
that's my only question about Aiden Holloway.
Right, and so you've made that comment about Aiden Holloway. Is you've got some, not that you haven't seen it. You didn't. His high school film isn't necessarily out there, so you see highlights, and then you see some of the All-Star games that he's playing in. We can't have two outstanding scorers at the expense of defensive efficiency. What does Denver Jones look like from what you've seen?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we could say maybe he pairs with Aiden Holloway's the starter, but Bruce is not going to put two weaknesses out there at both guard spots if they aren't up to speed. Do you see Denver Jones being like, oh no, he's got it, he just didn't do it a lot, so he has to upgrade his effort? Or is it like, nah, he's actually kind of lazy on defense because he's a bucket getter, that's all he wants to do?
Haven't looked at enough full game footage to be able to evaluate him defensively yet, but that is like one of the major things I want to do over the next week or so, is just try to find some full games of him playing and just see what kind of effort he gives on the other end of the floor. But yeah, that's my only. That's why today I'd actually still lean towards Trey Donaldson being the starting point guard, because I think defensively, what you're going to get from him. And he's shown that he can score a little bit now too. And he's a great passer. Like that was always the thing I liked the most about Trey, was his vision on the court. So he always had the effort. He always had the vision. He added the scoring. At least he showed his ability to score. He could always do it apparently, but showed his ability to score at the end of the game in the most crucial situations.
Right.
Aiden's got to come in and prove that he can do that at this level. And he's got some work to do. I didn't know Aiden could jump though. Aiden got some bunnies a little bit though. I was like, our backcourt about to be nasty. Let me just, you can call it sunshine pumping all you. Our backcourt's about to be nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, this
They're going to
kid-
go 4 deep in the backcourt with dudes that can put the ball in the bucket flat out.
They're not even done, man. Like there could be
They're
some
looking
more.
at a center. There's the
Yeah.
kid from Marshall who's supposed to be visiting this week. So we'll see how that and that'll be amazing if you can get him and Janai moves to 4.
Can I miss this opportunity to throw a troll at Bama? But they wanted him.
No, they thought they had him.
You're right. Yeah. And their fans were all excited. And they were like, oh, well, we want him. So Auburn screwed because he's taking a visit. Did he cancel his visit at the last minute?
I don't know if he took a visit there or not.
Yeah. Right. Either way.
Who was it? Whoever the basketball beat writer was like, not ours, but he was like, well, here are the visits he's definitely taking. And Auburn wasn't on the list.
Right. Yeah.
And
That's the last list that they had. It was like 4 official visits he was supposed to be taking, and Auburn wasn't on the list. And a bunch of Auburn fans were like, oh, yeah, we're going to get Denver Jones or whatever. And people were like, oh, I thought he was going to Auburn. Looks like he's not even taking a visit. And then he pops up on 8-day weekend and commits that weekend.
I
honestly think when Wendell went, when Wendell went pro, Denver was like, "Yep, all right, cool, let's go."
Yeah,
because he knew the minutes were going to be there.
Right? Is it possible though? Bruce Pearl kind of knew that. Again, I feel like Wendell got processed. And I think they wanted to. I think they were ready to move on. And it was just like,
I think processed is maybe not the right word. I've talked about this. I think the conversation with Wendell Green was about a different role on the team. Maybe something more like the year before, where maybe you're not starting, but you'll be our closer type of guy. And he didn't want to go back to that. Keep thinking, hey, man, I just made second team All SEC, and you wanna bench me? And it's like, well, you're going to get minutes. You know how I rotate guards. It's not going to be a minutes issue. And Wendell's like, nah, man, like, hey, either I need to think about this for a minute. Do I want to do that? Because and Coach Pearl is trying to convince him, hey, man, you're still good. We can use you on this team. You're a valuable asset. We just need you to play a different role for the team in this next season because we want to win a championship. And right now we need scoring. And Wendell, man, look. You haven't shown yourself to be a great scorer yet, man. You're a great facilitator. You give the great effort. You're out there doing all the stuff, but we need some scorers to light it up here. And I need your leadership coming off the bench to head that second unit. And Wendell's like,
yeah,
I don't know.
He didn't improve enough year over year, I think, for them to not make the decision to go out and get a kid like this, right? Like, so to your point, his role is going to change.
Yeah.
And, the acceptance of that was just kind of like, but when I say process, I just mean, I think they were probably anticipating that he was not going to accept the role change because he has the option. I don't know if you can
they were going to go get somebody regardless, whether he accepted it or not. It's like, you can accept it or not. We get another guard. So,
I think maybe they anticipated this would be his decision. So
who knows?
To move on.
Who knows? Well, listen, there'll still be some visits coming. We will definitely stay on top of that and keep you guys posted. But either way, good show today, guys. Great discussion. Mike G, tell the people why they need to become a patron and what they should expect coming this offseason and summer.
Guys, man, we are out here working hard at press conferences. We're at games. We're at 8-day. We're everywhere that Auburn is in every sport. Covering this for you guys. Your patron memberships help keep us going in this way. So we appreciate everybody who's been signing up. We appreciate everybody who's been gifting memberships as well, too. So we had some gifted during this live stream. Continue to do this, guys. This is helping us grow our community. Now, you can make the decision to keep that membership going once the month expires, but continue to give the gift to the War Report to your fellow listeners. Check us out on podcasts, every single podcast platform. The War Report is there, bringing you podcast exclusive content that you cannot get anywhere else. So, Amen Corner, Mike Mack and Memes, all the morning drops of the live streams, all that's out on podcast for you guys. Definitely go support us over there. Want to congratulate our raffle winner today. We're giving away something every single live cast, so don't miss that as well. We'll be back at you guys tomorrow with the morning drop.
Indeed, indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank y'all for tuning in on this holiday. Do us a favor before you get out of here. Share this with other people so they can see and join in on this conversation. We want to hear from you as well, even if you are new. Leave us your comments and thoughts in the comments. Smash that like button. Help us with the algorithm. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. I mentioned Facebook and Twitter, but we're also on IG at The War Report. We also can be found on TikTok at TW Report. Zipping out, guys, but enjoy the rest of your holiday, Easter holiday weekend. And as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.